Hey everybody, welcome to episode 55 of Pealed Back's LiveCast Conversations with, as always, I'm your host, Gene Bernier, the Enjoyment Coach, and today I have Mr. Brian Kelly himself on the show, my long-lost twin brother. Brian is an entrepreneur, trainer, author, speaker, and automation expert. His peers have named him the Automation Master. He loves helping others to achieve success through training them how to utilize live interview style video shows just like this one to saturate the marketplace with their message, which results in making more money in less time with less effort. His process involves three key elements: high quality live video shows. You will ooze professionalism as a result. Automation, making your life will be made much simpler by automatically achieving what would normally take 4 VAs to accomplish, and massive exposure. With massive exposure comes added business and more money. Entrepreneurs hire Brian to reach their peak because most do not stand out in the marketplace and fail to attract a steady stream of ideal clients. So he helps them reveal their personal and unique massive exposure machine through free up their time and create a steady stream of revenue. Bottom line is he helps entrepreneurs generate a 6-figure revenue stream with 12 months guaranteed. Brian, how are you, my friend?
Man, that intro music got me going. That was awesome, brother. So great to see you again. It's been like forever, right?
I know, it's been a little while. So if people that might not know is that I was on Brian's LiveCast show, 3-4 weeks ago now. So it was definitely, we're just continuing this trend. We got to keep the conversation going. And this time I'm in the place that I'm comfortable with on my side of the microphone.
Love it. Love it. I'm ready, buddy. Bring it.
Right.
Let's have some fun.
Well, let's jump into it. Let's start with your journey of becoming the Automation Master. I know through being on your show, how tied in you had everything. So let's talk a little bit about the journey to get you where you are today.
Yeah, it all started in the corporate world. I was actually a software engineer, and I began to realize how much I loved where you could write some code, and then you write it once, you spend the time to get it right and test it over and over. But then once you want to run it, you can run it infinitely number of times, and you always get the valid result at the end. So you could automate. It was a form of automation. And I've always loved the ability to replicate something without my manual effort going into it after the first time it's been done. And so cut my teeth on the software, writing software, went on vehicles that I can't even talk about on the show because it was in the defense area. But it was a godsend looking back, even though I'm not into the corporate scene. That was a godsend to go through that experience, to know that, that's where I developed a passion. And I didn't even realize that, brother, till a year and a half ago or so, that, wow, I should be doing automation, not what I was doing at that time, which I was in the fitness industry, which I loved, but I found out I didn't love it nearly as much as I love the automation and everything that goes with it.
No, I can appreciate that. And what I hear from that is, as you went through the corporate life, you learned a bunch of things. Obviously, we can get into your journey from corporate down into personal fitness, if you like. And then you shedded all that and took all those experiences and built it right back into something that you love and that you get excited about every day.
That's a big difference, and a big key is, when you're working for someone else, you're doing what they want, when they want it, and oftentimes how they want it. And so to me, I felt a lot like a robot at times where, they'd give you a manual. It's like a script, and you got to follow it to a T. With software, one of the beautiful escapes was that it is like an art form. In other words, you can write software in a variety of different ways and still achieve the same result. And so there was creativity involved in that. That's one of the things I loved about it, was the creativity process. Like a lot of the automations I build for businesses today that run on like software as a service, online clouds, and things like that. Someone else could do the same thing, but they would write it probably completely different, or
Oh,
assemble it completely different. But you would still get the same result, and it would work just fine. That's one of the things I love about it, because it gives you that unknown, and it gives you the freedom to figure out a creative way to get the solution done.
I love that perspective on being a software developer. Obviously, as you know, that was part of my initial background as well. So like when people talk about, especially in agency land, be like, oh, there's the creatives, and they think that's just the design people. Be like, no, the ones like writing the code are just as creative, right? It's almost getting used to detaching yourself from the means to get to the outcome. And I think that, I don't know if it speaks to you, but like part of that, I think, for my journey is definitely learning how to go, okay, this is where I want to go and this is the outcome. Do I care if I have to delete everything that's under here to redo it to get there again? And I think as an entrepreneur, that's definitely a superpower.
Oh, could not agree more. And a lot of that is there's a lot of things in that. There's how attached are you to that thing? How much emotion is charged with that? And the less emotion that you can have attached to anything in business, the better, because you want to build a business to sell it, even though you may not sell it ever. But the more detached you can be emotionally from that baby of yours, the better you're going to be off throughout every bit of the process. Because when you're not attached emotionally, it's so much easier to lead a team. Because if you're attached emotionally, you'll want that team to do it your way and only your way. And we just discussed, like when it comes to software, there are many ways to achieve a successful result. Just back off and let them take care of their genius, and you'll get the result you want. And you'll be so happy, because there's so much less drama. When you pull away, you take the emotion out of it. The sooner you do that, the better. The more you're going to see your company grow, and you're going to be happier at the end, even though you're not in control like you like to be. And I'm talking about, when I say you, that was me, for sure.
Well, I think we've all been there, right? There's always that definition of what's a boss versus a leader, right? And I think when I hear you speak, what oozes out of that is clarity. As that leader, you needed to have the clarity around where you wanted to go so that you could get maybe attached to the outcome and not the steps that took there to get the journey. Because sometimes the journey can take a little bit longer than anybody initially thinks when they first start going, we're going to do this goal. We're going to get there in 6 months. 6 months comes and they're like, did we make progress yet? Oh, all right.
You're hitting the nail on the head with the word outcome, because that is what I hope everyone always focuses on. If you focus on the outcome, here's a very quick story. I used to be a seminar junkie. I would go to every boot camp, seminar, workshop, anything that was within reach that I could get to. I just loved the people. And I did so for a long time without any specific outcome in mind. And one day I was in another one. And at this point, now I have a mentor, a person I worked with. I spoke from his stage. I became his lead trainer. And I happened to be not far from his home at this moment. And he just happened to text me out of the blue. He goes, hey, man, what are you up to? And I said, well, I'm at this event. He said one word that just clicked. And he knew what effect it would have on me because of our dealings and his teachings. He just said, why?
I knew that word.
And I'm like sitting there watching the guy, and I'm like, he's right. So I texted back, said, next break, he invited me over for dinner with he and his dad, and they're going to have some sushi. I said, I'll be over at next break. I'm not going to leave until the next break to give respect to the group here, but I'll be there. You're right. I shouldn't be there right now.
Yeah, so when you got hit by why, so maybe we can get down a why path here in a moment, but like, what did that change when you got up, made the choice to go, oh yeah, why am I actually here? Like, what did that start to bring up for you? And how long did it take you down to go to that process to go, okay, I'm not going to any of these unless they fit this model or fit towards this outcome?
Yeah, it was literally like a switch had been flipped. And from that moment on, I always looked for the outcome in any. So I tell this, I train this, I teach my team. I say, don't go down. If you have something you're about to embark on, maybe it comes at a cost of money. Maybe it comes at a cost of your time. Both are very valuable. Determine what is the outcome? Ask yourself, what is my outcome for going down this path? spending this time, this effort, this money in doing that. And if the outcome is not something that resonates with you, if it's not powerful enough, then you know that it's okay. I'll just not go down that path and I'll go to another one. No emotion, just it's a switch. You just say, okay, it's not a fit. Or you'll go down that and say, this outcome is looking pretty darn good. And it's going to take a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of resources. That outcome better be darn good. And I just went through this recently, so I can relate very well to it. It's powerful to start with the outcome in mind, so that it will help direct you in the actions or inactions you are about to take that can either waste your time or take you down a path you should never have gone down.
So when you're working with people, how do you help get them to make that realization, or kind of get detach themselves from like the processes that they may have fallen in love with, and get back in love with like building their business, or even finding out going, is this still what you want to be doing?
Yeah, you pick these things up as you're talking with them. Usually it's verbal when they're saying it, and you'll just let them finish and say, well, what I'm hearing is you're talking about all the things leading up to the process. What if this horrible thing happens? Or what if I don't get there? There's always fear and resistance and hesitation based things that come up. And I say, yeah, but let's get back to what's the end result you're looking for. If you concentrate and focus on the end result, all that stuff you're going through right now will either go away or it will be greatly diminished, because all you're focusing on is the result. Now you're focusing on solutions, not the potential problems you may be facing that haven't even hit you yet. A lot of people want to, foretell the future and say that they're going to run into all these setbacks just because life has given them those kind of things. And we all go through them even to this day, but you don't want to focus on the setbacks. You want to focus on the outcome, the result that you want. And when you do that, you'll just see a magnificent shift. And it takes repetition. It takes practice, because many of us aren't wired that way. We came by default with questioning everything before we even went down the path. So I just learned to go straight for it, be an action taker, say yes when I know it's right for me, not having any clue, number one, maybe how I'm going to pay for it. Number two, how I'm going to get the right team assembled. Number three, how am I going to, all that stuff. And I just say, so what? All this stuff will work out. If I have my mind on the outcome, it'll happen.
Yeah. Oh, that's it, people. That's the show, as Brian likes to say, that all the gems have just been dropped. That's the key one. I hope you write this down after the fact, right? Brilliant, right? Because like when you're connected to that outcome, like you say, the rest of those things, those problems, all of a sudden become potential opportunities, or they become things that you look at it going, hey, how can I solve this? Do I need to solve this? Am I actually looking at something from the wrong perspective? Maybe is this an anthill, or is this really a mountain in front of me?
Exactly. Yeah. And another thing that's been really coming up a lot lately, and it's been amazing, especially on my show with the guests that are coming on, I'm seeing this trend. It's so important to be doing what you truly, to the core of your being, love to do. And if it is something that is not giving you a lift emotionally, maybe it's not, maybe you love serving people, helping people like both Gene and I do. And if anything, you're going down a path and you're having these little, when it hits those thoughts like, oh, I'm not so sure that this whole thing as a whole is what I want to be doing. I'm not sure, because there's just one piece that it's not in alignment. So be really clear on what you want, and be in tune to what your mind is telling you. I've had so many people on my show lately, Gene, that said once they got into alignment, their businesses respectively took off. And I'm hearing it over and over and over. And there's a reason for it, because it's like a dog sensing fear. If you're not happy, truly, truly happy, then someone's listening and they're noticing, and you're not going to get the business that you could get, the business that you want and the business that you deserve, because you're not true to yourself and what your calling is. I'm doing stuff against the grain of advice by a multi-million-dollar company as we speak, because their approach isn't as in alignment as the one I like to take. And I'm not going to go into details on that. It's just you got to pick your spots and be happy and true with what you're doing.
Oh, 100%. Actually, we've got one of the viewers, Neil, is saying totally aligned with that. Aligned clients are the best clients to work with. Oh. And we've all worked, I know Brian and I have worked in agencies and worked with clients, and like, what is like the ones that you just regret are the ones you knew going into signing that contract. You're like, but is the money's all right. Maybe the money's even okay up front. Be like, there's no amount of asshole tax that can like overcome the pain that comes with how long-term a bad fit goes.
I talk about this so often, Gene. You know, long-term is so much more important than the quick kill. That is one of those rampant things that goes on in the network marketing industry where folks are looking to recruit. Those that are good at it recruit a bunch of people, but the end result is they don't support the people they recruit, and that organization tumbles, and then they have to go back and recruit again. And then they come and complain. One person did this and complained to me. He's like, I don't get it. Everybody wants my help. And I said, yeah, stop recruiting and help them, and you'll build a much larger organization. It'll just take a little bit longer to get to that monetary figure you're looking for, but it will be sustainable and it will grow faster if you invest the time now.
Yeah. Well, and it's going to be a lot more juicier too when you go that route, right? Like I agree with you. I've heard a lot more people are kind of stumbling to this patience, right? Like Gary Vee preaches patience all the time, and it's so true. And I think Tony Robbins, and maybe it's a Jim Rohn quote, but one of those two guys talk about how people underestimate what they can do in a year, or overestimate what they can do in a year, and wildly underestimate what they can do in 10, right? So like, are you playing for a 10-year plan? What about playing to your 100 plan? Like, what if you start playing that big a game? All of a sudden, like a quarter, even a year, a couple years, doesn't matter as long as you're looking up and still going, I'm making progress towards my North Stars.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you aim at nothing, you are sure to hit it.
I love that quote. That's getting written down on the wall for sure. And it is so true, right? Like it's same thing about planning as a project manager. Be like, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. And on the flip side, like it's that pendulum swing goes the other way. You could get stuck in planning and never accomplish anything, right? It's like, you got to take some steps. You got to take some steps, and you got to be okay with hitting what we'll use air quotes failure. Maybe that's a place to jump in. You've been all over the map in your corporate life, personal training, and now training entrepreneurs. Tell me what failure looks like and how you describe it, and what's your relationship with it changed over the last number of years through all of your careers.
Failure to me is nothing more than the opportunity to learn. And it's okay to fail. In fact, it's necessary to fail. And we would often say from stage is just get in the habit of failing, and failing more often and failing more quickly, because the more you do that, the quicker you are going to learn and not do that again. So people go through this paralysis by analysis and try to do everything in their power to avoid a failure situation, instead of, again, focusing on the outcome, just saying yes and go, and make failures along the way. Yes, plan to a degree. You don't want to come off looking really bad either to your clients if you're going to be working with people like that. But don't let the fear of failure keep you from your brilliance, because that has done that for so many people, including yours truly. I was one of the most, I used to call myself an analytical person. I was very analytical because, I was a software engineer, and it was ones and zeros and lots of numbers and things like that. I've learned over the years to let go of that. And oh man, talk about liberation. And it's nice to have it too at times, but I know now when to turn it on and when to turn it off. And most often the best way is to keep it off, in the off position, and just go with what it feels right. You just have that sense. And it's like, you know what? There's no crystal ball that says it's going to come out victorious on the other end. I don't want to get any false promises to anybody or false hope. The thing is go for it. Get in the habit of doing this over and over. You will fail faster, and you will learn from it. And then you'll get to that end result you're looking for actually faster by failing than you will by trying to figure out everything. So you just limit the failures all the way through. Just fail forward, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like from the software world, it's like when Agile first started coming into it, it's like, how can you reduce your time to get a return on investment? It was to launch it sooner. Launch it in littler bits so that you could test things and find out what would stick. And that's the same in life. Is like, maybe you don't know what it is you are excited about doing. How are you supposed to find that out if you don't go take some tastes and go sample a little bit?
Yeah, and it's a fine balancing act for sure. In fact, I'm working on something just recently. It's in automation, go figure. And just, having discussion with the group, the leaders of the company, and saying, I highly recommend we just take a step or a moment and do a little bit of testing before we unleash this thing to the masses. Let's bring in just a few people. So, and then get their feedback, trusted people. So you do want to be careful, but you still don't want to let your desire for not failing to hold you back.
Right. Oh, yeah. It's how much planning do you need to be able to kick it off and not like maybe, if one of your core values is making sure your clients get to shine, be like, well, how do you do this and still hold the value of executing and helping them look incredible at the same time? Well, over planning is not going to get you there, and just like running wild is not going to get you there either. You may find with both of those that you'll stumble into it, but I think both of them combined can make can play in harmony really well.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on it. Is you concentrate on your client's success and making them look good and get a good result. And when you do that, then that's when you see the great things happen in your own business. When you put the care, and someone was on my show. Oh my gosh, I love what I get to do, and I know you do too, Gene. So many great golden nuggets on these shows, but one of them, a great piece of advice, is when you're working with a client, is not necessarily think directly about what that client needs, but focus on what their clients need, what their clients desire. Get deep into their avatar, their ideal client, and then focus on that. That way you'll have much greater impact on your client directly if you indirectly are looking at their clients instead.
Well, that's a huge gem there to share, Brian. Because you're totally right. It's like those clients may have helped you to solve a problem, and instead of getting tied up in like what they think it is, actually working with their clients to help leverage it so that they can go off, and maybe it's an operational problem that the clients are complaining about. Maybe it's a marketing, maybe it's whatever else, but finding out the reason their clients go to them helps unlock some massive potential.
Huge. So many people spend far too little time in extracting and eliciting the pain points and the solutions that need to be solved of the people that are coming to them, and they just somehow are making business work because they put out the ads and things, but there's not a lot of people haven't put in the time and effort and thought process to say, what is it truly that's driving them to me? It's always emotional, always, and it's always a pain point that you have something to solve that they're coming to you for. Once you get clear on that, then look out. It's going to be a much more smooth sailing from there.
Brian, are you telling me that choices are powered by emotion?
Never. I would never.
That's going to demystify some things that people think, well, we're so logical. Be like, the reality is we're not. That's the secret. No matter how smart you are, you're driven by an emotional need. You can back that up and make it around logic or your numbers, whatever else, but all decisions come down to fulfilling an emotional desire.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we purchased something online? We'll read the ad copy and something about it just like, God, I got to have this. And you buy it and like, why the heck did I just buy that? It's because they took you through the emotional roller coaster, started with your pain points and craftily and artfully took you through like a case study all the way to the promised land. And then at the end, my life was incredible and perfect. Oh my God, where do I buy this? Where do I buy this? And then you get it. Like, oh, where did I buy this?
They're like, I need 2 of those right now.
Yeah. But wait, there's more.
So, Brian, maybe we've talked a little bit about you doing your own live casts and stuff. Why don't you share a little bit about the journey about stepping in and putting yourself up on stage like that? You creating, you become the brand of your show. What was that like, and how did you get started around that, and where is that taking you, and how's it? Lots of questions dropping all at once, but like, how's that affected where you are taking it now and next?
The greatest decision I ever made was saying yes to a young man who was holding a seminar. And the seminar was about this mindset stuff that for me was really new. It was neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. And he did it with a different flair. Back then, not too many people were teaching NLP for business. They were more for personal development and things like that. And so I learned an immense amount going through that process, a lot of training, many thousands of dollars to go through his courses. I have zero regrets, not a single regret with all that, just the opposite. And I learned so many things. One of them was how to speak from stage effectively, more effectively. And I grew fast in that environment because of him and his team that gave me feedback along the way. And during that time, I learned I love speaking from stage. I had never done it before, meeting these guys. And now I'm, ultimately for 2 years, I ended up being my mentor's lead trainer, and I taught one half of his seminars. They were 2-day seminars. I taught all of day one and loved it. Absolutely loved it. I got to impact change on people, watch them from stage as they're literally transforming before my eyes. And I'm not a woo-woo guy. My feet are on the ground, firmly planted kind of guy. And I was like, this is awesome. And so I saw the power, the fun, just the energy. It gets me amped. I'm feeling it right now as if I'm on stage. And then I branched out, did my own on stage seminars. I did 3 of them, found out how difficult that was in a good way, learned a lot, and realized I needed to hit the reset button and build my platform better. And I got that from feedback from really good friends who told me that I'm a little confused, and I said, thank you for telling me that. So I hit the pause button. I wanted to get back on stage, but I didn't want to go through that process because my platform wasn't ready. So that's when I started my second live show, which is the current one, the Mind Body Business Show. And it was kind of a way to scratch the itch of being on stage, even though you're not. There's no substitute for live and in front of people and seeing them. And you can see everybody. It's amazing. You can see no matter how many people are in the room, you can see what everyone's doing. But that was the journey of getting to a live show. And then I decided to not make it about making money. I decided to make it about serving and helping other people by bringing people like you, Gene, on to give advice or tips or knowledge that they may not have ever heard before that can help them take that next step in their business, in their life, maybe personal, maybe fitness, maybe mindset, whatever the case may be. But I just love helping people. So I always say my show is not my business. And I would tell anyone else who's looking into podcasts or live shows to do the same. And there's a whole, we go on an hour for that one about monetizing and why you should not attempt to monetize your live show or your podcast directly.
Yeah.
But go into that at some other time.
Well, and I think that's an interesting, like just using it as these live casts or your shows, period, as part of your marketing outreach and not having to tie that dollar value to it is like there's a component of freedom around it. And maybe let's share if you're comfortable, like sharing a little bit about the experience that you've had and with your clients about using, platforms like this to accelerate their business.
Yeah, I decided from the beginning to make the show about my guests, not about me, because I'm going to get the exposure. I'm on the show. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to really lift them up as high as I possibly could. And when you're not focusing on doing the show for the purpose of getting more people to watch or getting sponsors or whatever your strategy happens to be, when you're not concentrating on that, you're able to focus more intently, even more intently on the guest and on the show itself, the actual ebb and flow. Gene is right now controlling the show, the scenes, the lower thirds, the comments, and everything that's going on. That takes a lot of, it takes, I forgot what the right word was, but it takes some good brains, and you've got them. And it takes a lot of coordination. But if you're thinking about other things, and they're in the back of your mind, whether you realize it or not, if you're thinking about the money, that's going to deteriorate the quality and the outcome of the overall show, the interaction with the guest, which is for me the most important part of the show. The audience members, love having them. That's secondary in my focus. My focus is on the guest, not on the audience, always and forever will be.
And so just in case you missed that and you ran away from the screen, focus on the person in front of you, not that audience. Like that's such that's a strong one and a very hard one to come to grasp with sometimes, right? Like it's like, why are you doing this? You're doing it to share these gems of the people that you've brought onto your show, and you want people to hear it, right? Like sometimes looking at your like count or how many people are viewing, hey, the 4 people that are viewing, thanks for being part of the show today, by the way. But as well, like how do you right size that in your mind to go, hey, I'm not going to give up just because I've only had one person like it today, or like there's been like 4 views on this thing. It's, to me, I hear that is like, it takes us all the way back to your outcome. Why are you doing this? And then if that's what matters, that why you're doing it, the rest of those stats kind of don't matter.
Yeah, I interviewed an amazing guy named Seth Green on my show. He had me on his podcast first. He partnered with this guy that many people may have heard of called Kevin Harrington, who was the original shark, one of the original sharks on the show Shark Tank. And they do a podcast together. They've done 600 plus, I mean, a bunch of episodes.
Yeah.
It's a podcasting platform, not live video, but it's very similar in that I asked him a very similar question. And his response, I was almost doing backflips of joy because it was right down the middle true for me. And he said, I don't care about vanity numbers. I don't care about subscribers. I don't care about sponsorships. What we care about is establishing relationships, strategic relationships with our guests. And so he's looking at leveraging their tribe and vice versa, allowing them to leverage his and always doing a win-win. 600 plus episodes teamed with Kevin Harrington. And I'm sitting there like, do you think he knows what he's talking about? I think so. And the same thing was happening for me. And I didn't have a Kevin Harrington by my side. So this was very powerful and now I use that. I hold a master class every 2 or 3 weeks. And that's one part of it. I showed a little clip of Seth Green saying those things. And it's jaw dropping if you never thought of it that way before. And it was the truth that needs to be told to help people to get over this whole, it's an ego thing. How many likes? It's also, people think they need to have a lot of live viewers to get the big guests on. So I'm here to tell you, live, if you're looking at your live numbers, that's not the place to go. It's in the repurposing of your show. So it's very important to repurpose to recorded video and, I'm going to say it, audio podcast. Audio podcast. I repurpose mine to 25 different podcasting platforms, and that just spreads the exposure. It's all about exposure. And it's not just for me, it's also for the guest. And I go into it first and foremost with, it's important to get the exposure for the guest. No matter, I had Les Brown on my show, man. That was the greatest of all. And all I still concentrate on, I'm going to make this the best show I can for him. And I treat it no different than anyone else.
I don't know, Brian, like I just love hearing that from you. Is like, when you're going to go put in that extra work, why are you doing it? You're doing it so that you can give your guests more exposure. Be like, that's powerful to be like that. That gets you up in the morning. That goes, I'm willing to put in that extra half an hour. I'm willing to do that extra hour every day just to give my guests the best experience. Why? Because I know one of your pieces as well, like you leverage your network by asking, hey, who else should I be having as a guest? What's another good conversation you're willing to introduce me to? And it's just like, if you're not focused on that person in front of you, they're not going to go, hey, go to connect with these people.
Yeah, it works all in tandem. And I can't, there's so many intangible, great things that go with doing a live show like you're doing right now, Gene. And that's the relationships you build. We had never met each other until a half hour before my show started, right?
Yeah.
And then we were looking in the mirror to start. We're like, wow, it's me. We both have this cool hair. And, but you develop these, it's unbelievable. It's happened so many times. I've done 170 shows or something like that once a week, not very often, but I've developed some incredible lifelong relationships. I mean, authentic ones, not just superficial. I've got guests sending me their books. What's your address? I want to send you something. Okay. And they send all these great things over. And I'm like, I don't look for it. I don't do it for the gifts. I never do. But it's just that extra relationship building part of it that works. And I don't go after them and say right after the show, I was like, hey, you want to come buy my stuff? Never, ever, ever, ever. It's about establishing relationships that are going to be lifelong for you and your business and your in your personal life. You'll see that you love what you get to do. It's just fun.
Well, I think, we tie that the loving what you do part around, be like, you show up more relaxed and more yourself when you truly love what you do, right? So like when that's sitting and getting to host, great people like you on this show, or going out and doing the automation work, be like, when you love it and you get to walk out of that door of your office, wherever that is right now, and go to home to your wife, to your family, be like, and still happy about everything, be like, that you won. Like that's like that's what winning is all about.
Yeah, it enables you to be present in the moment and all the time. It's not just a moment, it's the whole show. It's leading up to it. And if you implement certain automation techniques, you don't have to spend a whole lot of time working up to the show, which I used to do. I used to do everything manually, and I hit burnout. And I had a partner. There were two of us, and I still hit burnout. And I said, I'll never do another live show again unless I go in and do what I love doing and automate the bejeebers, I call it, out of it. And I did it, and I refine it, continually change it. In fact, today I was going in and changing some things to make it even better. I just never stop because I love it. And it just makes my life easier because I have it doing the work, like you said in the opening, of 4 VAs. And I'm just sitting back going, okay, I have a show tomorrow. I'm doing nothing to prepare for it other than, I'll go look and read up about the guest, but I'm not doing all the back and forth communication with the guest and sending out posts. I'm not doing that. My automation system's doing it to remind everybody the next show's coming up, all sorts of great stuff. So that enables you to be present. If I was, if I had 4 VAs, I'd have them do all that work. So that's another alternative, but a very costly one, by the way.
Well, yeah, that's a great component of that as well. It's like, by automating it is like, well, you let the computer go do the work, and you're paying for probably a lot of like different SaaS services and stuff to pull it all together. Like there is still a cost to running that as a business, but you're being able to leverage your knowledge and the ability to use those machines to do all of the grind work or the grunt work that actually nobody has to do, which leaves you to be creative unless you go do what you love.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a godsend. It's a liberation.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, once it's running, it's and working, it's usually always working. There are hiccups now and then. When we have these services, we have certain things that lose connection with other services, like Zapier will do that on occasion, which is okay. It happens on rare occasion, and when it does, the guest, when a hiccup occurs, it just happened right before this one. I went back and looked, and like 5 of my zaps were shut off automatically. I'm like, what the heck happened? And so I turned them back on, and she got all these messages at once, and then she took care of every one of them right away. So little things can happen and do happen. Hiccups, technology is still not 100% perfect, but it is more accurate. And dare I say, and I don't mean to dehumanize people, but it's more reliable than most humans as far as getting the job done, getting it done correctly on a consistent basis. I'm talking about myself, and when I say a human as well, I'm not perfect. I'm far from it. And automation gives that perception of higher quality and higher professionalism, not just to the guest, but everyone, because everything you do about it, like you have these great graphics, you had a great intro, music, all of that plays into the whole picture. And so when you do that, you're going to find people will gravitate towards you. Whatever problems you solve, it doesn't matter if they saw you on a show or they see you everywhere because you're repurposing your stuff everywhere. They are much more apt to say, well, Gene does it, and this other person over here does it, but Gene has this show and he's a really high quality dude. I'm going with Gene.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
And you know what? And part of that's something that you said earlier too, is like getting started and then constantly working on it, right? Like both of our shows, like you go back and look in the vault of this show, like god awful, right? But it had to get started somewhere, and every week part of my outcome is like I just want to be 1% better every week, right? And sometimes those 1% jumps happen in like a 5 or 10% jump, but I wouldn't ever got to this place where I'm like moderately happy with the look and how things are flowing now versus if I'd never got started.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably speaks volumes for you.
Yeah, and look, same thing here. Look back at my first show; it was crap, and yours will be too, audience members, if you've not done one before. In comparison to 2 years from now,
yeah,
it will be. But it doesn't mean it's absolute bad. It just means when you look back and compare it to how you've gotten and improved in everything on your systems, on your graphics, on your transitions, on your communication behind the scenes, before, during, and then after the show, all of that put together. When you realize all of that, you'll find that it's okay. And I always say this because I'm always asked, what camera do I need? What microphone do I need? They're thinking they need studio grade $500 mic and $2,000 camera. I just say, do what you can within the resources, get the resources you're able to within your limits today. And then as your business improves, just upgrade, use a part of that money to upgrade. That's what I have done over the years. I started with box lights that were inexpensive and hotter than you know what, and I'll be sweating right now if those were still the ones I used. I've upgraded to LEDs. They're much more expensive, but I was able to upgrade. Camera, I'm still using the original camera from I don't know how many years ago. It's a C930E Logitech. I literally just ordered a Sony DSLR, which will take it up a huge notch, but I haven't needed it. And the point is, you don't either. The audience is do what you can with the resources you have and the limits you have currently financially. Do the best you can and just go. Don't let that limit you, because you will then have a starting point to then improve upon, and you will see improvement when you do this week in and week out.
Just yes, all the yeses, Brian. So looking up, I see that we're at the 41-minute mark, and I want to be highly respectful of your time. I know you've got another call coming up because you are a man in wild demand. So at the end of every episode, I ask each guest this one question. So we're going to hop into my time machine. We're going to go back 10 years, and you get to give yourself one piece of advice. What would that be?
It's interesting that magic number of 10 is the one you've chosen, because that was the age, right at that age, where I made the decision to pivot and do the right things. And so what I would say to myself 10 years ago, honestly, is good job. You finally figured it out and you got it, and you took the right path. And not to pat myself on the back, I'm not an ego guy, but that was a very positive time in my life, because it was a redirection time that took me mindset wise, speaking from stage, doing things I love. It was a great turning point. 47, a lot of people are going, dang, you're old already. It's like, nah, I'm 57 now. And I can't wait. I'm looking so forward to the rest of my life. I'm so excited. Every day I get up. Age doesn't matter. It just makes you more experienced, that you can learn more from. You become more wise. It does happen. And you get to, along the journey, just enjoy it and just be with wonderful, amazing people like Gene. When you do a live show like Gene's doing, that's what happens. The relationships are just, I can't put description on it. They're worth more than any amount of money could tell you. But yeah, 47 was like, I would high five myself. So you made the right decision. You got out of your analytical mindset. You finally started taking action and just going for it. And that's what I would say to my 47-year-old self.
I love it. I love how everybody has their own little spin on that. So in that, you're the first one that's talked about giving a high five. So that's incredible. Thank you so much, Brian, for being on the show today and being vulnerable and jumping into this discussion. I very much appreciate your friendship and the opportunity to share you to the rest of the world as well.
Thank you, Gene. Please keep doing what you're doing, brother. You're making an impact on the world, and continue. And anything I can do to help you along the way, just reach out. I'm right across the way, because we were born at the same time, being twins and all that. I suspect, I imagine many good conversations in our future. So again, everybody, Brian Kelly, make sure to connect with him down below. The links are all there and in the comments. We posted those up. And everybody else, thank you very much for watching. And remember, find one thing every day to be excited to put your feet on the ground in the morning. Till next week, I'm Gene, and this is Pealed Back's LiveCast Conversation With.